Welcome to the Halas Hall Hangover. We are 4-star Chicago sports, and we are happy Bears fans today. We're clanging glasses. The Bears got some monsters. They took care of the trenches. I got my boy Dustin in the house, and I got my boy Kyle in the house. How we doing? Is everyone full of smiles today, or what?
What up? It's a beautiful day. Lovely weather in Chicago.
Bears fan, man.
Yeah. Good day to be a Bears fan. Good day to be in Chicago with the weather, driving around with your windows down, blasting some music. I feel good
That's supposed to be a really nice week, man.
Yeah, and you know what? I was actually doing that. I finally got my car washed today as I'm driving around listening to ESPN 1000 and the Bears making moves. Strategically, man, this was for me, guys, this was fantastic. You know, I thought it was a smart approach, building a competitive team, before the draft begins. You know, he gave himself flexibility, solidified some of the key areas that we've been pumping on this show for weeks and weeks and weeks. Trenches. Now the Bears can take like a BPA approach if they want, and create a sustainable roster. Well, what did you guys think of the improvements they made in Grady Jarrett? Jesus, they're slipping my mind. They're slipping my mind.
Dalman, Dayo Odeyingbo. There we go. You got it.
There we go. Someone take it away. Tell me what you guys are feeling today, because the Bears spent some money. They built those trenches. It was trenches, and we got the trenches filled.
I'm stoked, like I said, man. I mean, it's impressive when you think about previous off seasons, and we go into those off seasons thinking these are our biggest weaknesses. And like it seems like last year, Poles was more focused on skill positions and playing Madden, and we saw how that worked out. We couldn't protect our quarterback. They went out and got. I mean, we've touched on the trades, but Tooney and Jonah Jackson, two of the best pass block winners in the NFL last season and throughout their careers. And then you get Dalman, who was top 10 if he would have qualified in terms of pass block win rate at over 95%. So, I mean, they have identified what their biggest need is, and they addressed it. You can't overstate how much they've improved this offensive line in just a few moves early on in this offseason. And I really like the Dayo signing too. The Jarrett one, I mean, he's going to be a leader. It's another guy like Tooney who can set the tone in the locker room for you and change your culture, which the Bears desperately needed. We talked about that for months too. So a lot of good things. The Jarrett money is a little high for my blood, but I don't know. I'm happy about what they've done so far. They have a plan, and they're addressing the trenches, which is what we've been screaming. So I'm happy.
I agree with you on the Jarrett signing. I like the signing. I like the addition. I don't like the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Kyle, what you got?
It's a good day to be a Bears fan, Sean. I mean, we talked about this all off season, or since the season has ended. The Bears need to address these trenches. They need to protect Caleb Williams. Basically, the goal of every NFL team should be give your quarterback the least amount of excuses as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. The Bears already gave him two stud receivers in Rome Odeyingbo and DJ Moore. Now they've addressed this offensive line. I believe Joe Tooney is one of the best guards in the NFL. I know that people aren't really in love with Jonah Jackson, but he'll do his job. He might end up being the weakest link on this line, but every line has one, and you have to get draft guys or sign guys who can make him look better. We've talked about this for the last couple of years now, guys. This is going to be a full 4 year rebuild. It seems like Ryan Poles is the right guy for the job. He's built one of the most competitive Bears teams I think we've seen on paper, at least in the last 10, 15 years. I think this Bears team is going to be able to compete in the NFC. And I think most of these contracts, for the most part, are pretty much what the average is in the NFL right now. I mean, every single team in the NFL who signed a free agent today overpaid him in some way, shape, or form. I think for the most part, let's see, the Bears have 9 positions on the offensive defensive line. They addressed 5 of them in the last 4 or 5 days. I mean, They had a plan going into this offseason. I'm assuming that plan had a lot to do with Ben Johnson, and they've stuck to that plan. And I don't think they're done yet, John. I think you're going to see a couple more little free agent signings here and there. We talked about how the Bears, after those 2 cuts of Walker and Everett, were going into the season with 32 players under contract. They just added 12 players in the last 10 days. They now have 44 players under contract. The draft should get them right around 50, and then they'll see them maybe add a couple undrafted free agents or a couple cheap free agents the next couple of days here, and the Bears have a good competitive roster.
Something to be said real quick, Sean, about the Grady Jarrett contract. It's high for a guy of his age, but if you look at what Milton Williams got, who played a limited role for his team, 26 million average. Javon Kinlaw got 30 million guaranteed from the Commanders. That seemed to be the market for defensive tackles, and I think Jarrett might actually be the best of those guys when it's all said and done. I mean, I just want to throw that out there for context. I don't like the money; it's tough, but
I agree.
By comparison, like Kyle just said, everybody overpaid.
You know, too, I think the thing that can't be understated here is the leadership and experience that Tooney and Jackson bring to the locker room. And they're both proven leaders. They on their respective teams that they came from. They're a steady presence. They're going to be a steady presence, I should say, in this Bears locker room. Tooney brings Super Bowl experience and consistency to the offensive line. I mean, again, I don't like the money on Grady Jarrett, but again, you can't. The leadership that he's bringing to this locker room cannot be understated. The same with Joe Tooney. I think they maybe paid a little bit more to bring that in. I don't know. But again, he's a declining player, so the money does bother me. But again, it can't be understated. The fact,
Sean, these signings are very similar to the Bears coaching staff. It's a good mix of youth and experience. I mean, Drew Dalman's a young player. The Dayo's a young player. They have two guys, and Grady Jarrett and Joe Tooney, who are proven leaders, who guys are going to be able to coach these young guys, especially the guys they're about to draft. I think this is all around a great day for the Chicago Bears. Listen, are these the best? Did we just sign the two best defensive players in the NFL? No, but they fill a need for the Chicago Bears, and I think I think Grady Jarrett, in particular, and Joe Tooney both have a lot left in the tank. And I think they're both the type of players who, when they believe that they cannot contribute anymore, they will hang it up. I think they're kind of like Jason Kelsey. They're just warriors. Joe Tooney's missed 2 games his entire career. I expect that to continue here in Chicago. And like I said, man, testament to Ryan Poles. He's killing it. He's absolutely killing it.
Sean, can we get we've put a lot out there on Poles in terms of not being happy with his production from the GM position. But I think we kind of need to give him his flowers today, because over this past week, this guy's kind of shown he's a mastermind. The thing I want to point out the most, and I pointed out to you guys earlier, genius move getting ahead of this guard market. Aaron Banks signed 4 years, $77 million deal with the Packers. Nowhere near as good as Joe Tooney, not on the same level as Jonah Jackson, really, in terms of his performance in my mind. Poles saw this market being too rich for his blood and got in front of it and got these are 1-year deals, at their base level, but he got 2 impact players at the guard position without having to compete with anybody in this free agent market, which was fucking genius, man. I'm really, the way he's maneuvered this whole thing and then putting Dalman in between those 2 guys, he deserves his flowers today. I don't think we got much negative to say about Ryan Poles today.
No, but I do like this comment here too. You can't count out Smythe as half of an old lineman. So that's 3.5. He's regarded as a fantastic blocker, and that's what they're bringing him for, to improve that run game. And Ben Johnson brought him here because he understands the run scheme. That I like the signing. I put a piece out on Facebook about it. I thought it was just another great addition. The Bears want to play smash mouth football. Just keep adding great blockers that know how to run block, know the scheme. I'm thoroughly impressed. I'm thoroughly impressed so far with what's happened.
Ryan Poles, a guy that was much maligned earlier in this season. He's kind of turning his perception on its head. He's gone up and down here over the last couple of years with us as Bears fans.
You got to be patient with these GMs, man. I've said it time and time again. Like, Bears fans wanted Ryan Poles fired. Like, guys, just give him his 4 years. He said it was going to take 4 years to rebuild the team. Give him his 4 years. So you got to give him his 4 years. Then how you're going to this? He hasn't even started the 4th year of his contract. I mean,
wasn't it 3 years? Last time he said, wasn't it 3 years?
Well, but the first year doesn't count because
he said it was a 3 year.
All you're doing is getting rid of all the old salary cap and dead cap. So I mean, nobody expected the Bears to be competitive in Ryan Poles' first year here. This is the most competitive Bears team I've seen on paper. I'll say it again, on paper, because we don't know how it's going to turn to fruition when you're watching them in 2025 on the field. But right now, if you look at this team on paper and the moves Ryan Poles has made, these are really good moves for the Bears. Really good, especially. I mean, Joe Tooney, I absolutely love.
Brando, jump in here, man. We haven't heard from you yet. Show us some of your excitement for the Bears. Come on, brother.
Yeah, it's really good, man. I mean, like Dustin said, Poles got ahead of the most impressive thing still to me is the trade for the guards. And you've got a blue chip talent out of all of this. And you've made some quality free agent signings at quality prices. I thought that Grady was the only one that was a little high, but that's the way it's going to be in this league, right? You're going to overspend for just about everybody who's available in free agency, especially if they're getting offers from other teams. So I know you guys have probably beat this up pretty good, but I think the Bears greatly improved their roster in the first day of the tampering period. And I agree, Kyle, there's probably more to come.
Broski's not giving Poles his flowers, guys.
Broski, why are you not giving him his flowers, man?
If the Bears win a Super
I
Bowl,
wanted him fired, and he should have been. Ben is the reason these picks are happening. Poles just throws darts with a blindfold on. Damn.
You know, I think his strategy, though, kind of starting to align with some of the
It's showing.
better roster management in the
you
league.
could-
If you
you
look
could-
around to what the Niners and the Ravens and the Eagles do, this is what they do, you know, and they sustain serious long success with it. You know,
and you could feel the culture. You guys, we've talked about. I don't know if you guys saw the story came out or not, but Drew Dalman had better offers on other teams, and he decided he wanted to come here because he wants to play for the Chicago Bears. That culture change is due in large part to Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren. 100%. They are the reason the culture is changing, along with Ben Johnson, who
they're the ones that hired Ben Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. They hired
Ben Johnson's here. Let's just be clear about that.
Right. Well, and a head coach can tell a general manager what it is he requires, but Poles is the guy who's got to get this stuff done. He's the businessman. So, bro,
did you guys read the story? Vernon, did you read the story about the Joe Tooney trade?
No.
How that all came about? How Ryan Poles started all of that? He was never known. The Kansas City never made it known that he was like available. Ryan Poles, from being there and having experience with him, he basically called the Chiefs and was like, "Hey, what do I have to do to take? You guys just signed Trey Smith. You just gave him the franchise tag. What do I have to do to get him here?" And they
I didn't doubt for a minute Poles made that call first.
Yeah, we definitely that's definitely something that should be assumed. Poles saw a weakness and a potential to exploit it, and that's exactly what he did. And I mean, that's what makes these moves so impressive, is the aggressiveness with which the Bears are operating to get that vision you're talking about, Sean, that's aligning with the head coach into real life. Let's see what it looks like on the field. Like that's.
I want to get you guys' thoughts on this, because I know we said this. These additions give the Bears tons of flexibility going into this draft, but we do have some question marks here, because Jackson's here on a 1-year deal. Dalman's here on a 3-year deal that you can get out of in I think after 2 years.
Yeah, generally these 3-year deals are really 2-year deals at the.
And you got a 33-year-old Joe Tooney. So I still think you have to build some of these trenches and draft some linemen in this draft, quite possibly, unless you want to wait until next year and take your chances. But I still think there's not as much flexibility, because you still have to get younger at these positions, because this is a good signings, good deal, but still a Band-Aid more than a long-term fix, in my opinion.
It's kind of both. Right.
And they're probably planning on drafting those guys, like Vernon and Dustin talked about a couple of weeks ago on the show. This is the time to spend money. You're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to have this salary freedom when Caleb Williams signs a $350 million contract. That's when those young guys you're talking about are going to have to start playing. Guys who they could draft in the third round this year and stick them on the bench and let them grow and learn from Joe Tooney. And you could be starting by the time you're paying Caleb Williams. This is exactly what they did in Kansas City, right? Nick Algretti. These are the guys they signed Kyle Long, but they drafted Nick Algretti in the third or fourth round and sat there and pampered
in those middle rounds.
The Bears are starting to act like a professional NFL organization that's putting people in places to succeed while building through the draft and worrying about their future later on down the road. I mean, this is exactly the way I wanted the Bears to do this. You have to protect Caleb Williams.
This is why I was saying it's kind of both, because there's a win now mentality, and you can see it in these moves, signing the veterans, trading for them, but you're also maintaining that flexibility. You still got all your draft capital, and then you can utilize that to build that depth. They're kind of looking at the now and looking towards the future at the same time, and it's going to lead to competitiveness. I think that's the thing that is most exciting to me, is the win now aspect of these moves, but they're not like tethered to it. They can still do other things. And I said earlier today, guys, I do not put it past the Bears to take the best left tackle in this draft at number 10. The Bears are still going to draft O-linemen, and you could turn Braxton Jones into Kelvin Banks or Josh Simmons. I mean, like, I would still highly consider that if I was Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears.
And in regards, Sean, to the, getting younger, when I agree with you, and you want to win you want a competitive team that's on the younger side of the 32 teams in the NFL. But Nate Davis and Ryan Bates, the guys that they've used as Band-Aids before, they're 28-year-old players, but they just weren't good. So at least you're getting your Band-Aids with guys,
all pro players
who can do the job.
Yeah.
Grady Jarrett.
tackles.
There was a couple articles this morning that said that Grady Jarrett is probably the best defensive lineman in the history of the Atlanta Falcons. Joe Tooney's one of the best guards to ever play football. The guy went to 3 Super Bowls in his first 3 seasons. He's won 4. He's part of a team that have played in 5. He's protected Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, played for Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick and Andy Reid.
These are winning players. These are guys who are used to winning, who are going to bring that winning culture and that winning mentality over to Chicago. And hopefully it rubs off on some of these young players like Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones. But, I mean, I really don't see how any Bears fan in the world, with the amount of money that the Bears had, they couldn't go out and get some huge market free agent like they probably couldn't afford a guy like Myles Garrett and still address this entire line. I think this is the best case scenario for them in this free agency class, for me personally.
If I will say this, I know there's some people in the chat here that don't like the Dayo move. I think
Yeah,
Dayo's
right.
still a young, ascending player in this league. His numbers have shown it. And if you think about a couple of things here, he's not an every down player. He's going to rotate in. You'll still have Billings in on first and second rundowns. He'll be a third down specialist. He can play in the middle. He can play on the edge. And again, he's 25 years old and still learning how to play football, and just came to a great coaching staff that can help this kid improve.
He's basically 3 years younger than DeMarcus Walker was when they made that sign.
Thank you for the comment, Ariel. We appreciate it.
Everyone keeps saying, about his new DeMarcus Walker. I think he's got a lot more growth in his game than DeMarcus Walker had when DeMarcus Walker came to the Chicago Bears.
The point I made was, DeMarcus Walker had played 6 seasons when the Bears signed him, and he had only started in 13 games. Dayo has played 4 seasons. He started in 19 games. There's more of a body of work, and there's more potential upside, like you just said, Sean. So, and his size really fits what Dennis Allen wants. And as everyone keeps saying, you got to trust Ben Johnson and the moves that he's making. Well, Ben Johnson's got to trust Dennis Allen. And if he's saying this is a guy that I can work with in my defense, then we as fans owe him the grace to say, okay, let's see how he works in there. I will say I like this signing a lot. I hated the DeMarcus Walker signing when it happened. And I like this signing a lot more just because of the potential, because of his size, and because of the fact that he is a rotational guy. And you're coming with, and if you can get double-digit sacks out of this guy, I really.
And I want to say to Ariel, to make you feel a little better about it, you say, as this comment here says, expecting Dayo is in a breakout season in year 5 is like expecting Justin Fields to do the same. The positions are very different. When you have a quarterback on a rookie deal, that's when you want him to be in his prime as early as possible. The age of a prime player and the pass rush or pass rusher, in the NFL is between 25 and 30 years old. So this guy is literally just entering the door of prime. He's got 4 more years ahead of him where he can develop into a better player based on the history of the NFL and the position.
And that's what drafting is, and that's what free agency is. There's got to be some projection too. It's not all about what they've done. If you're going to get value, you got to see something in the future that maybe other people don't see. That's part of it as well.
This was a Dennis Allen signing, dude. This
100%.
is Cam Jordan in this defense. Now, Cam Jordan was absolutely sensational against the run in his entire career. So hopefully he can improve against the run. But Cam Jordan is an absolute beast. And I'm not sitting here saying this is Cam Jordan, but I think this is a guy that fits the size and prototypicalness of a Cam Jordan. And that's why he went after him. And you can see by the measurables, they're almost identical players. Height, weight, arm length, everything. This was a signing that Dennis Allen wanted. You have to believe in this coaching staff.
Yes.
We've been sitting here for weeks saying we trust this coaching staff. It's an all-star coaching staff.
All-stars, yeah.
Trust the guys they want to bring in this team then.
It's a great point, Sean. It's a great point.
Well,
Yeah,
I find it
just
hard
say-
to believe that these guys feel like they've found their solution, an edge rush, right? I mean,
No.
there's
Dayo
still work to be done. in terms of the draft.
Dayo is a good depth piece, and we're watching a team in the Super Bowl who just won one who have quality players behind their starters.
Yeah.
That's what it requires. This defensive line position now is constantly interchanging. During a game, you got to give guy fresh legs. Dayo is a really good piece to be behind somebody who you might
Here's the
draft.
Bears defensive front. Sorry, Brandon. That's our defensive front right now.
We can't forget about Austin Booker in that rotation either. I really do want to shout out the chat because we haven't done that yet. Broski, Ant Mass, Breaking News, Bruce, Mike Ross is in here. Dennis Moody, Ariel, Scott Angel, V-Dog, Trey, everybody in here. Thank you. Illinois Jones, what up, brother? Thank you for being here. Thank you guys so much. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend. We love y'all greatly. And yeah, I mean, the rotation is going to be something that is going to be important to this Bears defensive line. And Grady Jarrett is a part of that rotation as well. And the question then becomes, guys, Is Grady Jarrett a rotational piece that the Bears
Yes.
are expecting to work at like a 40%, 50% snap rate? Or is this a lack of trust and faith in Gervon Dexter? I thought that was an interesting thing to ponder in terms of this
No,
roster.
I think Garrett and Dexter are going to be playing next to each other, and I think you'll see.
Gervon
Dexter's going to the nose.
Sure.
Yeah,
If the Bears had the same exact, if the Bears had all these guys, if the Bears had all these guys last year, the same, all the guys they just signed, all the guys they had, Garrett, all these guys they just, if they had all these guys last year, their leading sacker would have been Gervon Dexter. So Gervon Dexter is going to be a huge part of the Chicago Bears defensive line this year. I think they still believe that his potential, his ceiling is probably going to be the highest of any of these guys. And I'm not talking about the careers. I'm talking about what Grady Jarrett has left for the next 5 years at 30.
Why can't it be Dexter and Jarrett in a rotation at the 3 technique, and then you
could
get
be.
It
Very well could be. I expect youth probably plays more, is on the field more often, but they brought Grady Jarrett for a reason. He's not going to.
They paid him like a
heavily involved. Yeah, like a starter. They paid him like a starter.
You saw as a result. You saw the result of the Bears being thin at this position last year, guys. You're not just hurting for players with fresh legs. These players are getting injured. The Bears have had detrimental health concerns on both sides of their line because they don't have depth. They can't put somebody else in there. The players that are playing on their line are playing 70, 80% of the snaps over a season. That is, in today's NFL, 18 weeks, it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. You're bound to cause some injuries doing this.
Do you get?
I think Dexter and Billings are going to be more solid 2-gap defensive tackles. Suited more for the base 4-3 schemes. And their ability.
I like the idea of Dexter at nose. It's just not a position he's played in the NFL. He has only been at the 3 technique. So are they going to ask him to move, or is this a rotation between Jarrett and Dexter? These are the things I start to think about when I see these signings, because I feel like the rotation between those 2 at 3 technique, that kind of solidifies you at 3 technique, given health permitting, for the entirety of the season. And now I think you need to get a nose tackle to rotate with Billings. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Unless Mason Graham falls to the Bears.
I would love
situations can arise. Things can change.
Yeah.
I would love to watch Gervon Dexter play a little bit outside, to be honest. I think he's
they actually talked about that today,
today.
and I can't remember. It was a Bears analyst on there that said he thinks Gervon Dexter is not fast enough to get off the edge. So
maybe in a 3-4, he could be your defensive end in a 3-4, and this Dennis Allen 4-3. I don't know that I see that, man. Do we want to touch this question, guys? I've been keeping it up here because I'm just curious. Trey Shy says, "Do we trade Swift?" It's kind of out of left field there, but we want to give Trey some love. I don't think so. I don't think we're trading Swift, and I don't think we should.
I think if you do, you're going to get back a pick that's nowhere near the value in which you paid him.
Yeah, and there is a sunk cost fallacy with that potentially. But I believe in Swift, and I think Swift can be a part of a big part of a Ben Johnson offense, guys. If you get the spell back to rotate with him, that power back.
I just don't think Swift's going to be that sought after on the market where you're going to get some return that you're going to be happy about. I really don't.
Yeah, for sure. Swift's not going to get you anything more than a 5th or 6th round pick.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And where's Bears fans going to think, why the hell did we just?
Yeah, I'd rather see Swift breaking some big plays with us.
And I do personally think, and we'll see what happens. I think Dexter moves to the 1, and Billings and Jarrett are going to rotate situationally at the 3. That's just my opinion. We'll see what happens, but that's
Billings to the 3. I don't see that happening at all.
I just don't understand why would you take a guy who had 6 sacks, which is more than all of the guys we're talking about, Dayo, Garrett, all these guys you're talking about, and to move him out of his position. First of all, it was his 2nd year in the NFL. He's still very young. He's going to get better. He's still getting NFL big, NFL strong. This takes a long time for. We've talked about how defensive linemen who come into the NFL after being drafted struggle. There's never been a defensive tackle who got drafted and had 20 sacks. It's never happened in the history of the NFL. This is a guy who's still working on perfecting his game, a guy who has a lot more potential. I don't think Gervon Dexter's going anywhere. I think, like I said, he had more sacks than all of the guys the Bears just signed and everybody else on the Bears last year. He's going to stay in that position. That's what I think. Me personally,
I think he is too, Kyle. I was just asking, does Grady Jarrett? I wasn't thinking about Dexter moving. I heard people propose it before. His size can lend itself to that 1 technique for sure, and his technique can still get better in terms of pass rushing.
Level.
Yeah, 100%. But I was thinking more like, is Grady Jarrett supplant Javon Dexter at that 3 technique starting and kind of take more of the rotation? Or is it a 50-50 split? I'm just trying to envision.
Yeah,
how
I do think you're going to see Dennis Allen move them around a lot. I think he's going to move them around a lot.
Some NASCAR packages.
Yeah,
like what Erica threw in the chat here. Odeyingbo was sought after by the Packers. That was reported. The Bears kind of nabbed him up.
He was the sneakiest defensive lineman in this free agency market, in my opinion. A lot of people's opinions.
I don't want to change the subject, guys, but it was not the greatest feeling in the world when the Packers lost both of their wide receiver targets in like 2 seconds. Like it was, they're like DK Metcalf traded the Steelers, Devontae Adams signs with the Rams. I'm like, well, there goes the Steelers the Packers wide receiver targets. They're gone. Good luck, guys. The Packers had a terrible free agency. Terrible.
Aaron Banks is what they got. What else did they have another signing?
They re-signed Aaron Jones.
They re-signed.
No, the Vikings re-signed Aaron
Nate
Jones.
Hobbs to a 4-year, $40.
I thought you were talking about the Vikings.
No, we're talking about the Packers.
Sorry. I don't think did the Packers do anything?
Aaron Banks and Nate Hobbs.
Oh,
it's for $125 million.
Oh, I didn't. Sorry, I missed Banks going to the Packers
and Hobbs.
And then the thing about Dayo, guys, and Dayo seems to be the one that generates the most conversation as we're talking this out. It's the first time we're doing this. Obviously, this all just happened today, but Dayo seems to be the one that generates the most conversation. The thing about him that Sean brought up right at the top, Broski, and you're echoing it here. He can play anywhere along that line. You can use him in a NASCAR package at your 3 technique, or even put him at the nose. I mean, you can do different things with him and get real versatile. And his youth and his potential going forward is why he was worth the money he was worth. I think we're going to find that the Bears got him on a pretty cheap deal compared to the market for a guy like this. I think that's
I think you're going to see a lot of Dayo getting lined up in the middle, and then right before they snap the ball, you're going to see him and Montez Sweat switch, and Montez Sweat will move inside, and Dayo will move outside. You're going to see a lot of that. So there's going to be a lot of stunts for Dennis Allen's defense. We all know that Dennis Allen is one of the most aggressive defensive coordinators in the NFL. I mean,
do we have a new chat member?
A lot more than Eberflus.
Who's Chewy? We seen Chewy before?
He knows Bruce.
Chewy Solis, what up, my man? Thanks for joining us. I've never seen the name before. I don't know.
Thanks for watching, Chewy.
Thanks for joining us, Chewy. Appreciate you.
Foster Covers in here. Jedediah is back. What up, Jedediah? Thanks for joining us,
everybody.
Erica. I mean, man, this chat is popping off like crazy. I'm gonna have to.
You guys are the best.
You guys, of all the, obviously we talked about Jonah Jackson, we talked about Joe Thuney, we talked about Grady Jarrett, all these guys, Drew Dalman. What was your guys' favorite extension, signing of one of the players that was supposed to be free? And so, they re-signed Daniel Hardy, Bill Murray, Tarvarius Moore, Chris Williams, Josh Blackwell. And I'm not even going to try to say these last name, the linebacker, the outside linebacker.
Just call him Amen.
Let's call him Amen. Which one was your guys' favorite extension for all those guys?
I'm probably going to say Josh Blackwell because he has a lot of versatility. He can fill in and he can play special teams. So, and not just because we're going to hopefully have him on the show in a couple of weeks, but
yeah, I was about to say.
I was very happy that they re-signed Josh Black.
Very diplomatic of you, Sean. Very diplomatic. I like
Covers agrees, and so does Erica.
I like Hardy, man. I really like Hardy. I like the potential for him to be in the defensive end rotation. This guy has a motor that doesn't quit. Brandon will bring up his penalties. People will bring up his penalties. But I think he gets those because he's just playing his ass off and he doesn't know how to stop. And I think if you get good coaching to harness that, this guy can turn into one of those holy shit, this guy got 10 sacks. How did that happen? I see that kind of potential in him in terms of his frame, in terms of his go-get-it mentality. I like Hardy a lot. I was happy they re-signed him.
They gave a restricted free agent tender to Chris Williams, but I'm telling you guys, it's going to be tough for him to make this team now. It's going to be tough for him to make this team now. I mean, I don't hate Chris Williams. I think he's a better player than we give him credit for, but man,
Rob
it's going to be tough.
What up?
I think all of these guys are necessary at depth and special teams, but when I think about the potential players that could return from this roster, it still hurts me to my core to see Jack Sanborn walk away from.
Yeah, he's going to be a steal for somebody. I think.
I don't understand it. I thought he played well enough when he was on the field. I thought Amen didn't play that well at all, to be honest. I wasn't impressed. So
No, Ahmed's just really cheap. I think that's what I think the Bears know that they're limited in their spending ability this offseason because they had to address both these lines.
And they have
What are we-
familiarity with these guys. Let's
Yeah,
just
it's a
run it back special
two-
teams wise.
yeah,
That's
2-year
really
contract, $5 million.
what are we thinking Sanborn's going to collect in free
I
agency?
think Sanborn would be better off as a middle linebacker. I really do. I think he makes more splash plays when he's been a linebacker.
To answer your question, Brandon, maybe he pulls like a 3-year, 15 million, 10 million guaranteed, something like that. And I think that'll be a steal for someone potentially because he can fill in as a starter if you need him to and be I mean, people are kind of looking at him in that Leo Chenal role, I think, some teams, in terms of a guy that can be all over your defense if you use him in the right way. But the Bears don't have the ability to use him that way.
What if the Bears, and this may be a little high, what if they took your boy Campbell out of Alabama at 10?
Jihad?
Yeah.
I love
What's up,
me some-
Abraham? What's going on, Abraham? Thanks for joining
he's
the
a
show.
top
Man.
15
Munoz.
player in this draft. Abraham Munoz. Should we expect?
Oh, Abraham.
Listen, I think Jihad. I think going that, and then I'll do a Jihad on you too. I think we're going a little too high at 10 for Jihad. Nobody got my Team America reference. It doesn't look like. If you believe that, then I'll put a Jihad on you too. Listen, I like him a lot. And I would love to see him replace Edmonds, but then you're like, how do you replace Edmonds? Are you moving on from him? You got to trade him. 10 is a little high, potentially in a trade back, but this guy's the most athletic. Big. He's a 6'3", ran a 4.48,
Yeah.
40. I mean, the guy's an athletic freak, and he gets all over the field. He is awesome.
Sean,
And to
you should
answer your
answer
question-
Abraham's question.
Yeah, that's where I was about to.
I know.
Absolutely. And, if you ask me, I thought this is something that should have been done already. Showed your draft pick, your hometown boy, some love, like some other teams have done with their free agents already. I'm not going to say I'm disappointed that he's not re-signed because I expect him to get re-signed. He better get re-signed, and they should hopefully be taking care of this pretty soon. I would hope.
But Sean, I mean, they extended DJ Moore during training camp, so maybe that's just the way Ryan Poles operates. I mean, you guys remember watching the Hard Knocks where they called DJ Moore up in the middle of training?
DJ Moore is not a homegrown Bear. This is a homegrown Bear.
Yeah,
Show your draft picks, your homegrown players.
But in terms of the timing, maybe this is just the way he operates. And in terms of extending guys, maybe he just waits till training camp and then
he's going to get extended, guys. It's a matter of when, not if. He will be extended.
He's my favorite Bear, and I just want to know that he's going to be here.
He should hire you as his representation, Sean. Shit.
What'd you say?
I said he should hire you as his representation. Kyler Gordon first agency. I put Kyler Gordon first.
FSCS agency.
Let's throw that graphic up there for the salary cap real quick, Sean, because we got Erica asking this question here. How much cap space do we have after signing? Let's get that information out.
We've got you covered.
Let's see it.
Maybe Ryan Poles is having we'll discuss it in the bye week after you have he has missed some football. Maybe that's something Poles is concerned about, Kyler Gordon.
I do want to point out that this cap number that Sean's about to show does pull out the money that's going to be allocated towards the draft picks that we will certainly be
accounted for. Yeah. So
and these are your top players.
Still have room to extend Kyler. And you know what? I think they're going to redo Joe Tooney's contract. And I think they'll probably
push the number. Say the number, please, so everybody.
$15,719,494.
Just over $15 million in cap room, guys.
When they redo Tooney's contract, I think they're going to push some of that money to the back end of that contract so they can free up a little more space for this season, just in case they have to add somebody before the trade deadline in case of injuries or something like that. But yeah, I do expect Kyler Gordon to get extended pretty soon here. I think
it's gonna. Illinois Jones says edge at 10 seems like the best value. I've been wanting to bring this up, guys, and I mean we'll get into some more draft talk, but since Illinois Jones brought it up, a guy that I think keeps getting slept on, and Brandon, you're in love with Trayvon Walker, and you were in love with the idea of potentially trading for him, which seems like it's kind of out the window. But Mykel Williams out of Georgia, man. Mykel Williams is basically, yes. Mykel Williams at 10, I would be comfortable with. 6'6", 270. The guy's a beast. He had his best games and his biggest games. He's a guy whose speed, size, and strength will translate to the NFL very well. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Because Illinois Jones, if we were going edge at 10, I think I'd be pushing for Mykel Williams with that number 10 pick.
I like Mykel Williams. I do. I think he's a good prospect, but I don't want to change it. But if his pro day works out, I'm Josh Simmons at 10 all day. And
Okay, we're talking edge.
I know.
I like
know.
Mikael Williams a lot. I'm sorry, guys. I know people are going to be angry when I say this, but I really honestly believe there's for me personally, I think it's close to about 70% chance that the Bears trade out of that pick. I think the Bears figure they need a couple more guys to add to this roster. I don't think they feel like this draft class is necessarily loaded with blue chip talent. I think they probably think it's a good draft class where you can get more players who are good instead of one great player. I think they're probably going to end up trading back. Nothing crazy, but like 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there. And
Brandon,
maybe
there's an
add
edge
another
in the
third
second round that you like. Who's the edge in the second round that you like that could potentially if the Bears do a trade back, Kyle, which I think we should talk about more because I want to see how open the chat is to that because I'm becoming more open to it every day with these moves that are being made.
I love Landon Jackson, and the reason that I love Landon
Arkansas.
Jackson is not just because the guy's just he's a monster. He's huge. I think he's got the highest motor in this draft, Dustin. From what I've seen, watching the combine, watching a lot of his tape, and I didn't watch too much.
Mason
Arkansas
Graham might
football.
have something to say about that.
I think Landon Jackson has the highest motor, but guys, I'm still, and Sean's gonna hate me for this. I just read an article today from Heavy.com that says the Bears. It would not shock anyone if the Bears got really aggressive for Abdul Carter. And
Trading up. I've seen some mocks where they're doing that.
I've
seen some mocks.
Yeah, I'm not saying trade back. I just think they're going to trade.
Anybody, anything they want, that does not happen. It's he's not. Ryan Poles is doing what he's doing. He is not going to sacrifice his entire draft to move up to get Carter and not add depth to this team. I don't see it happening. It's not a smart move for where the Chicago Bears are right now.
But would you be interested in it if it were to be a potential, Sean? If say he falls to 5 and the Bears only move up
Sean,
5
what if it doesn't cost you a first round pick
picks
next year?
What if you have to trade 3 picks to get Abdul Carter, one of them from next year?
What if he's still sitting there at 7
1
and it's
second
not
this
going to
year
cost you
and
a
your
first round
second
pick?
next year?
I mean, if we want to speak hypothetical, then sure, but he's not going to be there at 5. He's not going to be there at 4. He's going in the first 3 picks, and in order for the Bears to get him, they have to back up the Brinks truck.
They'd have to trade a first round pick next year.
And
Yes,
I
they'd
don't
have to trade a first round pick
to go up that
I would
high.
love it. Hey, Brandon, I would love Abdul Carter. I would love him on the Chicago Bears. I'm just not. I can't.
So let's do the trade up, trade back conversation, man. Because like I said, I was a big proponent of no trading back because there's so limited blue chip talent in this draft. But it's looking more and more like none of those blue chip players are going to be there for the Bears at 10 either way. And then you can add some more picks potentially in those middle rounds where you can still find starters in this draft. This draft has depth. So are we open to? Are we pro saying let's trade back and accrue some more picks? Here's
where I stand, Dustin. If Mason Graham somehow falls, if you're at 7 or 8 and he still has not been drafted, if I'm the Bears, because moving from 10 to 7 is not going to cost you a first round pick next year.
I agree.
It's not worth that. No team in the world would ever trade a first round pick to move up from 10 to 7. If you can pull that off, like you just said, Dustin, for maybe 2 second round picks and a 4th round pick or something like that, and go get Mason Graham, I'm doing that. I'm going to get Mason Graham because I think he is going to be a blue chip game-changing player.
Who are the players you would trade up for, Kyle?
For me personally, with what I've seen, just for right now, just Mason Graham. Because I would say Abdul Carter, but the problem is he's not going to fall far enough to the point where if you're going to trade up for him, you're going to have to give away a first-round pick next year. You have to. It's not going to. There's no way out of it. He's not going to fall back far enough.
There is no Caleb Williams on this draft board. As good as Abdul Carter is, he probably ranks 15th in last year's draft, guys. You don't this class is this blue chip. There's about 6 or 7 guys in this draft. You would land anywhere near the top 10 last season.
But it doesn't matter because when you're taking the potential number 1 pick in the draft, and if you go through these mocks, Abdul Carter is the number 1 overall pick. It doesn't matter what he's been in a different draft. In this draft, he's the number 1 pick, and that's going to cost you.
But what Brandon is saying, Sean, is that the amount that you have to give up to move up for a player like Abdul Carter versus a player like Jared Goff in a draft where he's the number 1 quarterback, the number 1 quarterback is going to bring back more in terms of what you're giving up draft capital wise. 100%. I would trade up for Abdul Carter. I would trade up for Abdul Carter. I would trade up for Mason Graham.
I would like to never see the Bears missing a first round pick ever again for the rest of them. If I had it my way, I would like them to never be missing
2 first round picks to get Abdul Carter. I don't.
It remains to be seen, but I think we all in principle would be okay with trading. I love this comment.
You need a first round pick, man. You have to give them the first 2 first round picks.
I'm with Dennis Moody. If we couldn't get Landon Jackson, I love Princely out of Ole Miss as well.
He's good.
Hold on. Can I say this? I think the difference is the desperation in a team that needs a quarterback is much easier to exploit. And a team
Yes,
right now,
100%.
guys, the Bears would be exploiting a team's needs for draft
Yes,
capital.
but
If
Brandon,
you're the
here's the
Patriots or the
problem.
Titans, you need picks.
But
That's what
here's
you
the
need.
but Brandon,
If you're the Patriots in the 4th pick, and the Bears can offer you a second, the 10th overall
no,
pick, a
no.
second, and a second next year, they need that draft capital. They
But
do. They
Brandon, the
absolutely need
Bears,
it.
when they call the Patriots, they're competing with the teams who are quarterback needy. So they have to come and match that quarterback needy team. The
The good
Patriots are
thing
going to be like,
about
hey,
that,
we just got a call from Oakland who wants to move up and grab Ward. Why would we give you
Ward will be
the
off the board.
the
pick
good
for?
thing about that is that there's no quarterbacks really worth trading up for in this draft.
Yeah, but you guys know how desperate teams are for quarterback. You guys have seen it before.
100%.
We saw Trey Lance get traded up for to get drafted at 3. We saw Mitch Trubisky
And didn't
get
even
traded up
make it
for to
through his
get
rookie
drafted.
contract.
I think Mitch Trubisky and Trey Lance. I think Cam Ward's better than those guys. I think Ward's better than those guys.
Guys, can I just highlight this
Hold
comment
on.
real quick?
Just
No?
to say,
Okay.
just to say,
Hold on.
Trapasso wrote this. This article has been written. He thinks the value for the 4th overall pick in the draft with Abdul Carter on the board is the 10th overall pick this year, the 39th overall pick this year, and your 2nd rounder and your 4th rounder from next year. I would absolutely
much
do
for me.
that for
Well, first of
Abdul.
all, we don't have
I
a
would do
4th
that for
rounder.
Abdul
We
Carter.
don't have a
You
4th
just
rounder.
you just
next
said
year.
there's no blue
We
chip.
we don't
share.
have that to
Joe
trade
Team.
anymore.
Hold on though. You just said this guy in last year's draft would be the 15th best player at best, and you're willing to give up 4 draft picks for him?
Yeah,
That's a good
absolutely.
point.
Yeah, I'm not.
That was a good
I'm
I
not.
also think. Go ahead, Dustin.
I got to say this. Erica is just kind of echoing.
Go ahead,
my
Eric.
thoughts.
Sorry.
I don't want to hear any more Bears fans complaining that we didn't address the trenches enough this year. Bears fans wanted the trenches addressed because it was what was needed. Poles took way too long to do it. He's neglected it for years. So we got to keep that in mind, but we also got to give credit where credit's due. Just because it's not the way you guys expected it to be done doesn't mean that he did not address this in a massive way this year, and it's going to lead to better team success.
I do want to say this though. Where do you guys project the Bears' defensive line next season with what they have right now?
What do you mean project? Like in terms of sacks?
I'm projecting them to draft some edges in this upcoming draft.
I don't think they're done. I think we've all agreed that they are not done addressing this defensive line. They're going to draft. I think the defensive
line has improved maybe 3 or 4 spots from where they were last year.
Illinois Jones says
more
we
than
need that draft capital too.
More than that.
Yes.
More than that. I mean, if they have not improved by more than 2 spots, Brennan, then Dayo was not a good signing. That's not a good signing.
I just
It's yet to be seen.
Just popped up on my feed, and I don't know if this was heard earlier, but it says the Chicago Bears have called the Cincinnati Bengals for a trade about all-pro defensive end Trey Hendrickson.
Well, I hope they called. You got to look into that.
The NFL has called the Bengals.
But listen, you're giving up draft capital for him too.
I don't like it.
You're going to have to pay this guy $35 million a year.
No,
I don't like it.
No Trey Henderson. No Trey.
I think I'm out. He's already 30 years old.
Sorry, guys, I misread that. It was the 10th, 39th, next year's 2nd for the 4th overall pick in this draft. No 4th.
That's what I proposed, exactly.
And then, hold on. He finishes it by saying the Bears should do this without thinking twice if possible.
Okay, well, can you guys tell me the 3 players that are going before Abdul Carter?
The 2 quarterbacks would have to go.
Probably.
Who's the
Travis
third guy?
Hunter is
Travis
still
Hunter.
rated the best
Travis
player
Hunter
in the draft.
is the best player in this draft.
He's the best player in the draft. Travis Hunter is the best player in the draft.
I think Abdul Carter is going before Travis Hunter. There remains to be seen. We'll see. We'll find out on the draft day, guys. But I think you're wrong.
I disagree with
Abdul
Travis
Carter's not
Hunter.
playing defensive end and then going out and playing left tackle when the offense comes on the
most
field.
draft analysts and most teams have him as the number 1 prospect.
I disagree with that statement, but that's
okay,
fine.
but it's not a disagree. I'm just saying, like, the consensus number 1 player in this draft is Travis Hunter by all.
Here we are on the show, and it's all can be
100%.
recorded. I think that Abdul Carter is going to be drafted before Travis Hunter.
Okay, but that's a player that will be gone in the same area.
And do you know who the number 1 pre-graded player is in this draft?
What?
Who?
Ashton Genty is the number 1 graded at his position in this draft.
And I think they're way off on that when that boy gets to play real competition.
Let me say this. I've been a proponent of trading draft capital for the right guy, Myles Garrett, or even Abdul Carter in the right situation. Looking at this draft and having done some mocks, guys, and also just, evaluating what's available, the Bears trading back sounds much more appetizing to me than trading up. Trading back is what I am kind of pushing.
you
Like, I
guys-
hope the Bears do this.
Yeah, you
I hope
guys
they
know I've been
improve their
saying
draft
this
capital in this draft.
2 months ago. I was saying this. The Bears do not feel like this is a draft class that's low, where the top talent is so far and above beyond the rest of the talent.
It's
that
all
they
very
think they
condensed.
think this is a draft where they can get more good players instead of one great player. I've been saying this for 2 months. I think the Bears are going to trade back. I've been thinking they were going to trade back for the last 6 weeks. I still think they're going to trade back. I think the moves they made today makes it even better, higher chances they're going to trade back, and I think they're going to accumulate more draft picks. I think they're going to go back and try to get another second, third,
You have to have
third,
a
and fourth.
name. The Bears have to be targeting somebody in order to trade.
Well, Brennan,
back.
we
Who
just
do
talked
you
about it.
think-
Sean said that's the first thing Sean
Not
said we got
necessarily,
to do. The
Brandon.
flexibility, they're like, hey, we can move back 6 spots, get another third and fourth, and we could still draft whoever we want.
Hopefully,
because we've
3
already
of the
addressed
top
all
5
this stuff
guys
in
on
the
our board
offseason.
right now are still there.
Yeah,
type
one of
deal.
those top 5 guys on our board, our personal board, one of those top 5 guys will still be remaining at 15, hopefully. That's what the Bears are going to be thinking.
Not specifically targeting a player, but looking at your board and looking at what's already been picked, kind
I
of
agree.
projecting
I
out that
agree
you can trade
100%.
back,
I
still
can't
have
say
something
this
available.
enough. If you can trade back and end up with Josh Simmons, your anchors are set for the next decade.
Unless
Sean's
all
agency
3
is
of
going to
your
represent Kyler Gordon and Josh Simmons.
unless
But Sean's
Right
right.
here,
all
look,
3 of your
Sean's
left
right.
Hold
tackles
on.
are
You
injured.
guys saw the film of him with the resistance bands on, moving laterally, back and forth, back
I
and
wasn't
forth.
very impressed
Sean,
by that. I'll
Sean,
just
and
say.
you're right. Sean, you are 100% right when you say the further back you trade, the less risk you're taking because you're accumulating more draft picks. So now that instead of just that
But
one
the risk on
pick at
each
10,
player grows.
you have 15, 28,
Well, here's the
39,
deal.
and then you can go take a risk on a guy like Josh Simmons. That's why
But the
they
risk
would
I'd
trade
move
back.
back into the 20s, guys, and I'd
Here's the
accumulate
deal.
another
Me
second
too.
and another
Me
fourth
too.
and
Next
something like
season.
that.
That's what
Next
I
season,
agree.
Braxton Jones, you're either letting him walk or you're paying him a boatload of money because even shitty left tackles, as you saw today,
yeah.
are getting a fine
Sean, you're right.
paycheck. So
Yeah,
the
you need
Bears
a
have to make a
replacement for him.
decision.
Hold on.
And if
Yeah, you
if
can't
the Bears,
extend him.
hold on, if the Bears are going to be as good as we think they are going to be, or they're going to be better, they're not going to be in a position next year to draft a good left tackle in the draft, even though it's supposed to be stacked with left tackles next year.
Yeah,
What
there's
do
still guys
Braxton
that could
Jones,
potentially be available, but
what do Braxton Jones, Karam Amagaji, and Josh Simmons all have in common?
injured.
Yeah, but you guys liked the Quran side draft pick.
Here, guys,
did.
let's get.
And
We're
here-
going to do some mocks. So
Hold
I
on,
wanna-
people get hurt in the NFL.
Wait,
We
hold
watch it
on, Sean. You
all the
said something I
time,
want to
and
talk
in
about.
college football. If
How
you're
good-
not drafting players because they got hurt, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. You
Right,
cannot
that's saying
draft
a
no,
guy-
guys
if,
that
if
got
you're
hurt.
taking a guy who is injured in the draft and you don't know for sure when their health is going to come back to full strength, the thing with Josh Simmons with me, and I said this, Sean, Josh Simmons could be a luxury the Bears can afford to wait on if Braxton Jones's health is not in question to start the season. Josh Simmons is not going to be your starter if you draft him in this draft. You're going to let Braxton
fine.
Jones play for a year.
Yeah,
Braxton
fine.
Jones needs to be healthy.
That's
As
fine.
we sit here right now, Josh Simmons is doing a full pro day, and it's also been stated by multiple
I hope he's
sources
healthy, man.
he will be
Do you guys-
ready for
Does
training
it
camp.
remind you of somebody? we
That would be
drafted?
great.
Does it
Sean,
remind
do
you
you
of
know-
somebody we drafted previously? We've drafted an injured offensive lineman.
You're talking about Tevin Jenkins.
Evan Jenkins. That's a lot.
Sean,
Of
listen.
that was an unknown back injury that no one could figure
63%.
out for 3D.
Yeah, and Bernard, he required surgery after
Guys,
training
six-
camp
okay,
Yeah,
began.
it's
let's go
about
throw this
what
out.
his- it's about what-
63% back to play at the position. 63%.
This is one-
63% of these players at this position get back to playing football. Just letting you know.
This is a comment I wanted to touch on, guys.
Really quick, Illinois Jones. I'm saying if the Bears trade back,
Yeah, not at 10. Yeah, Sean did say that. Sean did say not at 10.
Let's switch the subject here because this is something I've been thinking about all day with these signings, and Abraham kind of beat me to it, but it's something I wanted to pose to you guys. Switching to wide receiver, like with the money that has been spent here, it's made quite clear that Keenan Allen is not going to be back. I'm going to answer your question right now and say, Abraham, there's no way Keenan Allen is getting re-signed by the Bears unless he signs a very cheap deal, which I do not see him doing. Sean, you good?
Yeah, my thing came up. That my mic was unplugged.
All right. No, we hear you. We hear you. So Keenan Allen is by all. We can all agree he's gone, right? With the signings that have happened this
Yeah, I
offseason.
think we knew that a long time ago.
So what are the Bears doing in terms of replacing him?
Well, I mean,
What
they've
do you-
already reported that the Bears are interested in Elijah Moore. We've heard that. That's been reported by numerous
Okay, what
people
else?
now.
What would you do?
I would be really happy with former Bronco and former Detroit Lion, Mr. Timothy Patrick. I would be
Yeah,
really
the problem with Tim Patrick, Sean, is he has the same skill set as Roma Dunze and DJ Moore. I mean, he's almost the same build as Roma Dunze. Like, don't you want somebody he has a different style of play, like an actual slot receiver, like a true slot receiver?
sure.
Somebody who's a good route runner
You
as
still need a
opposed
third
to.
receiver and 3 wide receiver sets.
I mean, I don't hate
Who
the
can play
idea of
on the
Elijah
outside.
Moore. I don't hate Elijah Moore.
I don't
My
hate
thought-
My thought kind of was, guys, with the moves that they've made, Sean, we've all said it gives you flexibility in this draft that you didn't have, but a few days ago. Is wide receiver in the draft, Brandon, something that you're considering to replace Keenan Allen?
Say it, Brandon.
Absolutely.
Say it.
Absolutely.
Don't even say it. Don't say it.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not at. I think one of those
Not a 10
second
with
round.
Tetero,
No, not a 10.
not with T-Mac.
Not Tetero, but I think with one of those second round picks, I'm seeing Luther Burden pour off, fall. But Sean knows I love Pat Bryant in the 5th round. If that's who you're talking, I love Pat Bryant. In
That's
the
not
5th
who he's
round.
talking about, Brandon.
No,
Who's the slot
Jaden
receiver?
Higgins.
Who's the slot receiver, Brandon? The one you've been
Xavier
talking about?
Restrepo.
receiver in the draft.
Restrepo.
Xavier Restrepo.
Yes.
He's gonna go with your 1st round pick.
He's going to go
That's-
around 20. He's going to go around 20 where the 20 to 30 where the Bears trade back.
Hold
20
on,
to
let me
30
pitch
is where
this,
he's
though.
going to go.
Xavier
I know
Restrepo will
this
not
is-
be a first round
this-
pick. No,
this-
He's projected a first round.
no
Yes, he
fucking
is.
No,
He
he's
is
not.
projected.
He is.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen. I guarantee you, he is not drafted in the first round.
I can-
I mean, people said it about Lab McConkey, man.
Why not
he
allow?
wasn't taken in the first round.
Why not allow
What was he? The
Antoine
first second
Randall
round,
up?
wasn't
No,
Why
it was the
not
second
allow
round.
Antoine Randall out to see if he can fix what Tyler Scott's not doing?
So we've talked about this before. So you think that Tyler Scott could be the replacement for Keenan Allen in this offense?
I think that you hired a coach who can probably get more out of him for sure. I mean, better than healthy scratches. I think Tyler Scott is still a young player who Ryan Poles probably wants to work still, right? Is he
I would
okay
be
with
on
just
board with
chalking this up as
Yeah, I mean-
another loss?
Dustin, the 3rd pick in the second round. I mean, it's
It
not
was a
like-
second round pick, Kyle. Yes.
Yeah, but so if
Okay.
you're not, if you're
Sean,
in
I do
between
love
20 and
Restrepo.
your next pick is 38 and he goes
So
34,
the Bears can take
where are
him
you
with the second
getting?
round pick. That's my point. He's
Yeah,
falling
Munoz,
right in that.
Go get him.
brings up a good point here. How about Tyler Lockett?
No.
He's a little
No,
older,
thank
a little injury prone.
Yeah, dude,
He's
the
a
goal
slot
is for the-
receiver for sure, but he's lost a lot of speed, man.
the goal
I
is
like
for the-
Jaden Higgins, guys. I like Jaden Higgins, and if I
Jaden.
have the flexibility to do something like that in the second round, take a receiver, or if you trade back and add some extra picks, all I'm saying is it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Bears replace Keenan Allen in this upcoming draft in April, and I think I'd be more for that than signing a Tyler Lockett.
All right, well, real quick, guys.
If I can touch on this really quick on V-Dog here, saying that he thinks that Braxton has gone this offseason. I just don't know how that's
There's no
financially
point to doing
possible
that.
for the Bears to
It
do.
doesn't make sense.
It's
What do you mean?
impossible.
You can't do. You'd just be hurting yourself. You'd have
Yeah,
to
you have
fix
1 year
cap.
left on his
It wouldn't make any
contract. There's
sense
no
at all.
point in
Even
him
if he
being
was a swing tackle for you, he's still the best swing tackle in the NFL.
Yeah,
Why would you cut him? That doesn't
I
make
just
sense.
I'm
don't
not
see that happening.
I don't think we're saying that we're against replacing him and having him be on the bench with a better option starting at left
swing
tackle.
tackle. Swing
Yeah,
tackle.
100%. But we're not. But Braxton Jones ain't going to be gone. He's going to be a part of this team for one
Real
more year.
guys, before we move on to the draft,
I
there's
still
something
like to
else.
see.
Hold on.
Hold on. I'd
Illinois
like to see
Jones
Jones
says-
still maybe get moved to guard.
Luther Burden is drastically falling down draft boards right now, guys. I'm not sure why, but he is. He's now projected late first. He was initially projected when the offseason start began, a top 15 pick in the draft. I don't know what it is that's doing this, but every time I see a mock draft, he's further and further down the board.
He'll be
Yeah.
a first round pick.
So can you trade back with your first pick and get your guy at 20, whatever you like? Can you trade back into the first with potentially a second and a third round to get a Luther Burden if you like him that much?
I like Restrepo. I want a true slot receiver, man. That's
and
what
I
the Bears
think you can
need.
get him
They
in
need
the
a slot
second
receiver.
round. I don't think that it makes sense. We talked about this. I don't think it makes sense to take those 2 second round picks, which Kyle just said basically are first round picks potentially in terms of talent, right? They're that close to the first round. And we talked about how condensed this group of players is from that end of first through the second round. They're all very close in terms of talent. I don't see how it makes sense for the Bears to take those 2 picks and turn them into one first, unless it's somebody that they're like really sold on, man. Like that's just well above.
Right. If you think a talent that should have potentially been a top 15,
but
pick
not
is
for a
now
receiver,
available,
bro. Not for a
is now
receiver.
available.
Yeah.
Well, before we go out in the draft,
Because I was going to say,
what are your favorite moves from the NFL today that aren't the Chicago Bears? Your favorite and least favorite?
Hold on, Kyle. Before we go to that really quick, I do think that there's enough talent in this draft. If you do move back and pick up, say, a fourth, maybe even in the third round, you can end up with
Pat Bryant will be there in fifth.
He
Pat
will be
Bryant
there.
Will be
I
there.
love Pat Bryant, deep sleeper late in the draft. Yes, there's potential for the Bears to address this in the draft, and I wouldn't put it past Ryan Poles to do that.
Yeah, if anybody listening to the podcast here, if you guys want more information on any of these receivers, safeties, offensive linemen, or defensive linemen, go back and watch the Barely There podcast from the last 5 weeks, Wednesdays. Sean, Jason, and I have broken down every single one of the players, almost every single one of the players the Bears have the potential to draft. But before we get into the draft, I know you guys think about maybe doing a mock draft, but what are your favorite moves or least favorite moves from today that don't involve the Chicago Bears? Just out of curiosity.
I'll throw one out there. The cost that the Eagles re-signed an all-pro linebacker at, Zach Bond, for 51. I mean, I don't know how these guys keep doing this, but that guy could have hit the market. If he had hit the market, that guy could have made $65 million over three. I mean, this guy was an all-pro linebacker on a Super Bowl winning team.
Yeah.
He's a stud.
Well, I mean, how good does that make that TJ Edwards 3-year, $18 million contract?
Yeah, that was
like?
Hurts.
I mean, it just sucks that we did the Tremaine Edmonds thing in unison with it.
B-Dog says the Bears looking at Devin Duvernay. That would probably be more for special teams.
How about
Bern,
Duvernay?
What about your least favorite, Bern? Anything you could think of that happened today that you were not a huge fan of?
I don't love the idea of bringing Aaron Jones back. I think this guy is kind of washed, man. He love it too. Sean. He played a role in the passing game. He wasn't effective as a runner. They were using 3 separate backs to try to make up for what he couldn't do. I think the Vikings have been a team that have kind of built this offense through passing when Sam Darnold was their quarterback. I think if you put an explosive guy back there, man, the Vikings still are going to draft a running back. It's going to happen. I can tell you that right now. They're going to. But
good class.
That's the one where I was like, that was probably it.
Can I go since Illinois Jones threw out one of mine? Yeah. I guess that's my favorite and my least favorite because I hate the Jets, and I think this is a match made in heaven for them to spend $40 million, 2 years, $40 million on Justin Fields. A lot of people thought that the high upside of Justin Fields was the most intriguing thing on the quarterback market. I mean, I can't stand this move, but I'm happy that it's the Jets that made it, and good for them. They're going to suck again this year, and they'll do it with Justin Fields. So that's awesome. So I love that move, and I hate – can we do the trades before this free agent date?
No,
I hate Geno Smith being traded for by the Raiders. If I'm the Raiders, I don't want to pay this guy over $40 million a year. That screams to me of a contract that you're going to regret pretty early on in that contract. Geno Smith is a great story, man, but he's not a guy worth trading all that draft capital. And honestly, the Seahawks trading away DK Metcalf. Like, what were he wanted to be gone, but it's like, make that work, dude. Figure it out.
Good luck, Sam Darnold, huh? Like, you bring this guy here, and now he's got nobody. You Lockett and Metcalf are gone. Like, yeah, you're real setting Sam Darnold up to succeed over there. Yeah,
I'll tell you this, Kyle.
Rough.
They made my keeper decision a lot easier. I don't think I'm keeping JSN anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm keeping Brock Bowers anymore.
Brock Bowers, what about him, man?
Listen,
Geno Smith is a much better quarterback than what the Raiders had. That's for sure. But there's no way I trade for that guy and then give him a 3-year contract averaging over $40 million a year.
Is Kenny Pickett the starting quarterback on the Browns?
You might.
I mean, they traded for him for that to be.
It would be Deshaun Watson if he's healthy, is what they're saying. When he comes,
the Eagles traded Pickett for Dorian Thompson and a 5th-round pick. I believe.
5th-round pick.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, what about you? What are your favorite and least favorite moves from the trades or free agency or retaining?
DJ Reed.
You guys getting the feedback?
Yeah, that's just you.
DJ Reed for the Lions. Huge.
Yeah, Sean, I think that's one of the biggest signings of the entire. DJ Reed was the best secondary player in this free agency class. The Lions secondary sucks, and they went and got him. That sucked for Bears fans.
Yeah, it did. And I think Nick Bolton taking the hometown discount and Harold
that's
huge. To the Patriots. Or 3. I mean, those were. He went back with Rabel for basically nothing. Harold Landry.
The Josh Sweat deal. I mean, Phil pointed it out.